All right, so I have done 7 takes of this video today. When you hear YouTubers say the shooting and editing of a video is hard, it really is. There are so many things that you don't think about when you're watching a video that you have to think about when you're making one, like eye contact. So my apologies in advance if I am not that great with the eye contact. I like to look away when I think, and it's a little different when you're presenting something to people and there's no people to actually look at. It's a little boring to look at a camera. Anyway, welcome to this morning's porch time, which is not on a porch. It's inside in my living room. Yay! Temperatures for the week are supposed to be really, really low. I mean, compared to lately. Lately, it's been like 50 degrees or higher during the day. This week, we're looking at 30s to 40s for our highs, which might sound a little weird to be happy about that, but there are things that I'm ready to get on with, like getting our pigs done and our turkeys, and I have a limit to how many animals I can do a month. So yeah, we want to get that taken care of. Pigs are getting loud and pushy and noisy, and they need to be bacon at this point. So anyway, to kind of celebrate the changing of the seasons and to vicariously continue our harvest, we went to Miller Farms this week. Every so often we do a mystery trip with the kids, a fine tradition started by my parents-in-law. And they don't know where we're going. They don't know what we're doing. We just pick something and mystery trip. And they love this. It's the best idea ever. It's so much more meaningful than if you tell them, oh, hey, we're going to go to XYZ. It's just the suspense and the anticipation. It totally changes the attitude. And I have taken them places where I didn't think they'd be so excited, like the farm. I knew they would have fun being outside, but I had no idea that we'd get so excited about picking onions. And my youngest was arguably the most enthusiastic, and he hates onions, period. Like, doesn't like them. So anyway, we went to Miller Farms. They have this deal right now. They're over in Weld County. For a family of 4, you can get 16 bags of produce, as much as you can pick to fill those bags. And then you get a wagon, like a 3-foot long wagon. You can stack it as high as you can with squash, and then that's yours as well. It's an incredible deal, and they have a lot of fun things for the kids. Like, they took some old cars and they painted them up like the Cars characters from the Disney movie. They have like this little maze type of thing they can do. There's all kinds of sizes of things. Like, they had the itty bitty gourd pumpkins, and then they had the really big ones, and so it's just a lot of fun for the kids. And when it comes to the you pick vegetables, basically they put you on a hayride, or in our case, it was a covered trailer with benches along the sides, still very cool, towed by a tractor. And they take you out to the various fields, and you have a little bit of time to pick whatever. I probably should have gotten more green tomatoes because those are fantastic. Some people may not value them as much, but where I live, it's cold. You get a lot of green tomatoes. You learn how to use them, and then you start to really love and look forward to them. So, one of the things I'm going to do is can a few, like the 1870s homestead does, and save them for later. So basically, she slices them and cans them ready to go so that she can use them whenever she wants later without having to worry about them going bad. We're going to see if some of them turn red first, but the rest of them I'm going to probably process up like that so I have them at will. But at any rate, lots and lots of fun there. And then in addition, they had a barn full of other produce like green beans and peppers and cabbages. You got 2 cabbages, like seriously? I'm not kidding. This big, right? And so probably 20 to 40 pounds of cabbage, easy. And lots of pumpkins, zucchinis, all kinds of stuff to preserve this week, which gets me to the change in focus for this week. We're going to be doing cleaning, reorganization, and preserving. Probably with the emphasis on preserving and reorganizing. And then once all the dust and the chaos settles, then I'll get down to the deep clean. So that could be next week or the week after. I'm not going to lie, it's a mess here. Some of the things that we're going to be doing this week for preserving, I'm going to do some sauerkraut, and then I'm going to do some coleslaw, and the canned coleslaw is so good, you guys. It's really, really good. Definitely do the apple cider and white vinegar mix. Or if you don't have apple cider, you can add just a touch of balsamic vinegar or the amino acids, coconut amino acids. Yeah, that's it. And it'll be just as good. Anyway, carrots and green beans, I'm probably going to do at least half in jars. I'm going to do canning, just because I like to have them at the ready. I know that changes their nutrition profile a little bit, but honestly, we do plan on using our crock pot a lot, in which case the dehydrated and freeze-dried foods would actually be a really good benefit because it absorbs some of the extra moisture. But I find the canned stuff to be a lot more convenient. And that's why I like to can potatoes and meat, especially because the nutrient value of those foods aren't significantly changed by the canning process. It's mostly minerals, carbohydrates, and protein that are in those foods. So, and I kind of appreciate the texture of home canned potatoes and meat. It just makes things so simple. Even my husband, who didn't grow up with canning at all, started reaching for that canned stuff and in the jars that I put up, and we've just found it to be a real nice convenience food. You don't have to wait or spend 20 minutes and half an hour pre-cooking things to cook things. You can just assemble what your dish is and then it's done. So yeah, that's what's on the docket for, we have apples. I still have some apples to do. We have some carrots to do. I said green beans already. I have some squash to do. Now, like zucchini definitely is a freeze-dried item because it's really too delicate for the canning process. Squash, 6 ways to a dozen to like deal with squash, honestly. There is some value to having it be fresh on the shelf in your cool room because it stores really, really well. Winter squash appreciates a warmer environment, like 40 to 50 degrees with a low humidity. And wow, that's exactly what we have in my basement. So it works out great. But on the other side, sometimes it's just really kind of inconvenient to take it, especially if it's a big pumpkin, break it down, cook some of it, stuff the rest in the fridge or the freezer, It's so much easier just to stick it in the freeze dryer or the dehydrator, at least the winter squash is. Grind it down to a powder with your blender, right? And then, or your food processor. And then you have mix and serve puree that you can use anytime you want. And the nice thing about that too is that you can make your puree as thick or as thin as you like, and you don't have to cook the liquid out of it like you do when you make pumpkin puree from scratch. It's just a lot more convenient for things like pies and soups and things like that. But on the other hand, having some nice ready-made canned pumpkin is nice as well, as if you like to use them in chunks in your soups or your stews, or you just want to make a really quick breakfast hash with sweet potatoes or carrots or whatever. It's just really nice to be able to dump it and go. So if you have an interest in a particular kind of canning or preserving type, or you want to know about what's the best way to can X food, let me know in the comments below. Also like and subscribe because we are a new channel and we love to have new subscribers. We don't have very many right now, and the more people that subscribe, the more people that get to see the stuff. And we really feel like we have some pretty valuable content for the people who are just looking at how do I get into this whole thing. So put your topics of interest down in the comments below. Reorganization. So May through September here is insane. Not in a bad way. I mean, there's lots of great things about that season. I mean, there's actually like kind of like 3 seasons or maybe 4. Okay, so there's the prep work that happens in the beginning of May. And then there's the actual beginning of not freezing. And so you're outside and you're doing stuff. And this is usually when we're doing the final prep on our beds and things like that. And then there's the hooray, it's summer. I guess that means that's more like 5. Anyway, there's the hooray, it's summer kind of thing where you're able to plant your tomatoes and your beans and things that aren't brassicas or cole crops. And then you start harvesting stuff. You have a little bit of lull in July, which is actually kind of a really good time to take down trees and start your firewood prep because it's really nice outside and it's not too hot, but it's nice and warm and you can be out all day in your t-shirt and, you know, at least when you're not using a chainsaw. Anyway, I digress. But, you know, mid-July, then you've got your lettuces coming in and you're starting to see some of the benefit of that. And then you've got herbs that you want to do because when your harvest season is 2 to 4 weeks long, you want to do as much as you can ahead of time. So you don't want to save all your herbs for the end of the year. It's way too hard to do that, and the tomatoes and the potatoes and the carrots and whatever else you want to do. Way too hard. So then there's July. You start doing some of the green things like bunching onions and things you can eat fresh off the garden. There's summer eating there too. And then starting in August, if you're going to do winter garden, you're doing another series of plant starts for winter gardens. Ideally, they should have been started in the beginning of July and then transplanted in August. So they have a good month inside your hoop house before the winter comes along. Because usually winter comes along in September, like 1st or 2nd week, maybe 3rd. There's generally like the 10th through the 20th is sometime when winter starts. And so August is spending a lot of time harvesting, doing any during this entire time you're doing whatever house projects like painting and resealing and caulking and repairing things that broke during the winter maybe, or improving things, upgrading things. A lot of the sealants and the adhesives and the building materials really do best if it's above freezing. So there's June through August to do all of that. And then otherwise you're fighting the clock. You're just taking chances. It's basically weather roulette. And then back end of August is a lot of canning, a lot of preserving, a lot of running the dehydrators, just a lot of work. And that's also when animals at commercial farms are due. So like if we buy a half cow or something like that, it's usually September that is delivered. And then once, and I didn't even get to animals. Gosh, spring is baby animals. There's a lot of brooders and a lot of nursery work. And next year we plan on timing the litter for May so that we have decent conditions to clean and prep the maternity ward, as we call it. And next year we hope to have 2 sows giving birth at the same time instead of, we're not going to do any more fall litters. We were thinking we'll do one in the fall and we'll do one in the spring, but the truth of it is it's just too hard to get babies to gain weight during the winter when they're cold. And we don't really want to heat the barn we just don't want to heat the barn. So if we have the babies late April, early May, and then we do our processing October, November, then we only have 3 adult pigs that we're actually keeping through the winter and plenty of room in the freezer. And it doesn't matter if the pigs are smaller or not. We're just looking for an overall weight gain. And we have heard that there are lots of advantages to having smaller pigs too. Maybe not for bacon, but in a lot of other ways, yes. So there's just a lot to think about. See, August, I like to do a round of fall chicks. I don't like doing chicks in the spring so much, just because you end up keeping them inside a lot. If you hatch out a bunch of chicks or you get your chicks end of July, beginning of August, They are ready to go outside. You're not spending as much money on heating the brooder or that kind of thing. And they're ready to go outside before the bad weather hits. Like, I bought some ducks last minute and they're almost done feathering out. So that was kind of a, I'm not doing it again. Ducks are nasty inside. I don't like it. But, you know, so there's a lot to think about during the summer months. And like I said, living before dead, we're not going to worry about the dusting or whether, you know, the bottom of the toilet is spotless or, you know, those kinds of things when we have animals and people to take care of. And I would much rather spend some time with my kids making memories and loving our dogs and that kind of thing, making the habitats of my livestock better than making sure my house is spotless. So that is why we need so much reorganization at the end of the warm season. And I hesitate to even say summer because it just seems like we have frozen and not frozen. Those are our two seasons, with a sprinkling of mud season at the beginning and the end of each frozen period. Mud season's great. But I think that's pretty much about it. If there is something that you would like me to cover, whether that's how I organize my canning room, how I design my shelves, how I develop a par level, we're going to be paying a lot of attention to what we eat, because there's no sense in having stuff in your pantry if you don't really use it, and there's no sense of buying things in a quantity if you're not going to go through that pretty quickly. So our goal is to have a 6-month deep pantry. That's my goal anyway. That's a nice start. It gets you through the winter. It protects you if you have, like, say someone in the family has an accident and they can't work. It protects you from the financial shock of having to buy stuff when they're most expensive. Because for us, the winter is a big deal. That's when things are the most expensive. And so having the reassurance or the security of a deep pantry is kind of nice. And that is for everything, not just what you eat, but also, like, we don't deep pantry toilet paper because that would be ridiculous. But, I mean, it'd just be too much storage. But we do stuff like, you know, we'll buy 2 or 3 times as much as dishwasher detergent that we need, because that way that's one less trip we have to make. Or I'll buy cheese in advance and I'll freeze it or dehydrate it or something like that. But if you have any questions about, you know, how do I set my par levels? How do I decide what to put in my deep pantry? What do I do if I want to grow fruits and vegetables, but I only have a door window or a little 4x4 garden or that kind of stuff? How do I save seeds and propagate things for the next year? When do I buy trees? When do I buy garlic? Those kinds of things. How do you keep your dogs happy? How do you keep your animals happy during the winter? Predator protection. Any of those things, you just let me know and we'll put it in there. At some point we'll look at the list, and I only plan on doing 1 video a week. It's not going to be super edited because I just don't have time, and I hope you can forgive me for that. But like I said at the beginning, this is a lot of work. This is like my 6th take because I kept making mistakes. So just being able to get the video out is a lot. So leave your comments, like and subscribe, and we will see you next week for the porch time chat. All right, bye. And maybe it'll actually be on the porch.